This one's gonna ruffle some feathers on Capitol Hill. But I'm being honest. When the people who went around this country for years saying that they were pro this or pro that have the opportunity before Congress in a congressional hearing on the record to reaffirm what they've told us before they got their esteemed positions, and they fail, it's really not a good look. Let's talk about Kash Patel, the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and how he let down every single gun owner across this country this week. Patriots, welcome back to Guns and Gadgets, the premier source for Second Amendment news. And today we're going to dig into something that should alarm every single American, whether you own a firearm or not. What happens when the director of the FBI, the head of the nation's top law enforcement agency, refuses to stand up for the Second Amendment or any other right that the Americans enjoy when pressed by Congress? This isn't just about words in a hearing, it's about the future of our rights, the integrity of the U.S. Constitution, and whether government agents serve the people or think they actually rule over them. And before we dive in, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Checkmate Mags. Whether it's for competition or defense, Checkmate has been making reliable American-made magazines for over 4 decades. With their experience in high-quality manufacturing and a never-satisfied approach to innovation and refinement, Checkmate is the leading provider of high-quality aftermarket and OEM Freedom Seed loaders for many makes and models. Each Checkmate mag is 100% developed and manufactured in the United States of America and is backed by a lifetime factory warranty to ensure superior performance, reliability, quality, fit and finish for all of your favorite firearms. I want to thank Checkmate for being a sponsor of the channel. Guys and gals, support a company that supports your rights. Check out Checkmate. All right. The FBI director isn't just another bureaucrat giving testimony. He oversees an agency with more than 35,000 employees, a multi-billion-dollar budget, and the power to launch investigations into anyone, anywhere. That power, unchecked by principle, can be abused. So when the man at the top won't look Congress in the eye and affirm that the Second Amendment is every bit as valid and vital as the First, the Fourth, or the Fifth, well, that's not a slip-up. That's a warning sign. What am I talking about? Let me show you this little engagement that Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota had with Kash Patel as he was before the Senate Committee on the Judiciary in the oversight of the FBI hearing that happened Tuesday. And I waited till today because he was in front of the House yesterday. Watch this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have seen too much political violence in this country. We all know that. Just last week, Director, your friend Charlie Kirk was gunned down on a college campus. I'm sorry for your loss. In Minnesota, only 2 months ago, a madman took the life of my friends, Melissa and Mark Hortman, shot Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette a combined 17 times. And evidence indicates that he would have killed a lot more if law enforcement hadn't intervened. Just last month in my state, we were again shook to the core when little kids were shot down through stained glass windows in Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis. And while the victims weren't politicians in this case, they were 6-year-olds and 8-year-olds, the manifesto that the shooter left behind was political. But in the words of your own federal law enforcement, this person was an all-purpose hater. Went after blacks, Hispanics, the president, Muslims, Jews, nearly everyone. And this happened during the first Mass of the year for these kids. They were excited to see their friends, meet their new teachers, and 2 children, 8-year-old Fletcher Merkel, 10-year-old Harper Moisky, were murdered. 21 other people injured, some of the kids, 18 kids, severely. Fletcher was just starting 3rd grade. He loved his family, his friends. He loved fishing and cooking, in his dad's words, any sport he was allowed to play. Harper, the other child, we celebrated her life this Sunday, thousands of people. Her parents described her as bright, joyful, and a deeply loved 10-year-old whose laughter, kindness, and spirit touched everyone that she knew. We've heard the words of young children who were saved because 12-year-olds laid on top of them, or a kid with disabilities who was paralyzed, whose teacher pulled him out of the wheelchair, threw him under the pew, and laid on top of him. We do thank the local FBI director and the local U.S. Attorney's Office for their work in both of these cases, the Hortman case and this. But I did want to focus on one local law enforcement moment that I'm not sure has made with all the news going on in Minnesota. When the first 911 call, and you've heard about other places where this waited and waited, the first 911 call was made at 8:27 a.m. The first officer was on the scene just 4 minutes later, local Minneapolis police, at 8:31 a.m. The Chief O'Hara, shared with me the actual numbers. Listen to this. Over 20 people were in ambulances just 14 minutes, all of them, after the police got on the scene. 14 minutes after the first call. Tourniquets, stretchers, and they got them all to Hennepin County Medical Center or Minneapolis Children's Hospital. And I think it is worth looking at what happened there, because one of the dads whose daughter was severely injured, still in the hospital, that I met on Sunday, told me that there is absolutely no way his beautiful daughter would have survived if police hadn't been there. So it is worth looking at for all of us. So my focus on behalf of these parents, because I promised I would do this on Sunday, was just to figure out how we can do anything to stop this from happening again. So expanded background checks, ghost gun bans, every shooting is different. Raising the minimum age to purchase an assault weapon, even if we're not going to ban them, I favor banning them. But that's one idea that's out there when so many of these shootings are people who are 18, 19, 20, 21. The one at Annunciation Church was 23. Both shooters in Uvalde and Buffalo had just turned 18 when they purchased the assault weapon bans. I'm not saying any one of these things would prevent every single shooting, but I really ask everyone to look at these. We also need to tackle social media, and I really did appreciate Senator Graham's questions. I think we have to protect free speech and not engage in censorship. But for years, I have supported repealing Section 230, which was made when these companies were little companies starting up in garages. And I think it is one way to get at making this better environment online and preventing violence. So my first question is on the assault weapon ban. Do you think that would be helpful in reducing gun deaths, Director?
Senator, if I may, I want to answer the question, but thank you for your remarks, especially it relates to my friend Charlie, and I share and relay my remarks, my sentiments to you. Minnesota has suffered untold tragedy in these last few months, and whatever creativity we can use to eliminate even just one shooting, one horrific death, I am in favor of engaging with Congress fully to do. I don't have the answers. I don't know what will eliminate it in its entirety, but I'm willing to engage and explore new ways with you, Senator.
Okay, thank you. And so, assault weapon ban, what do you think?
Senator, I think there are instances on this legislation that could prevent future attacks, but I'm not going to weigh into the creation of legislation.
Could you also look at, and I favor just assault weapon ban, not getting these guns in the hands of people that shouldn't have them, but could you look at the numbers on the ages?
Yes.
Because from 18, even going from 18 to 21, which wouldn't have prevented the shooter in Annunciation Church from purchasing that gun. He purchased several the same day. Over 100 rounds were fired from the assault weapon through the stained glass windows. So if you went up to 25, it would have stopped that immediate purchase and probably saved the lives of these kids. But if you go to 21, that is the same age that already applies to purchasing handguns from federally licensed dealers. So I prefer another approach, but I was hoping that our Republican colleagues would at least look at that, given Uvalde, Buffalo, and some of these other mass shootings, trying to be practical, but thinking that it could make a major difference. Strengthening background checks, could you also look at that? and then banning ghost guns and bump stocks. What do you think of that?
So, Senator, you're talking to my heart here on one of the core missions at the FBI, which is our CGIS facility in Winchester, Virginia, which is our hub for our NICS checks, our NCICs, our capabilities on when we have, I think it's 19,000 state and local community law enforcement come to us for these background checks. We're trying to make that processing as fast as we can so we can get them real-time information. I think we have a 93% clearance rate in 15 minutes as it relates to ghost guns, but we can do better.
All right. Well, just if you could get back to me on all those and talk to the White House.
Did you catch that? Did he say an assault weapon ban is a no-go? Did he say that banning anything was a no-go? Now, Kash Patel was with us last year at Goals, Gun Owners of America's annual conference. Last year, right over there in Knoxville, Tennessee, telling us how pro-2A he was. Remember this, the Second Amendment is not just another line in the Bill of Rights. It is the safeguard for all the others. Without the people's ability to defend themselves and their nation, every other right, speech, religion, due process, you name it, rests on the goodwill of government officials. And history has shown us, time and time again, that government goodwill is a poor substitute for liberty. When the FBI director shrugs off questions about protecting the right to keep and bear arms, he's not just being evasive, he's undermining the very framework of our republic. This isn't happening in a vacuum. The FBI has a history of enforcing gun control schemes pushed by politicians who openly despise the Second Amendment. Think about this. The abuse of the NICS background check system, the investigations into and the intimidation of lawful gun owners, their role in helping ATF carry out unconstitutional classifications and enforcement actions. The list goes on and on. Now imagine that same agency led by a director who won't stand up for your rights even when directly asked by Congress, or in this case, Senator Amy Klobuchar to be specific. What does that tell you about how the FBI views the Second Amendment? James Madison, the father of the Constitution, warned us about this very danger. He said, and I will quote, "There are more instances of the abridgment of freedom of the people by the gradual and silent encroachments by those in power than by violent and sudden usurpations," end quote. That's exactly what we're seeing. No dramatic declaration that the Second Amendment is abolished. Instead, a quiet dismissal. Weak words. Refusal to affirm a right that is crystal clear in our founding documents. And with that silence, the groundwork for encroachment is laid. And don't give me that this wasn't the time or the place. That was exactly the time and exactly the place for Kash Patel to stand for the Second Amendment. Think about it. If the most powerful law enforcement agency in the country, and maybe the top one or two in the world, does not acknowledge that the Second Amendment as untouchable, then what happens the next time Congress passes some BS sweeping unconstitutional gun ban? Will the FBI stand with the people, or will they eagerly enforce it? If the director can't say the words now in front of Congress and the American people, then why would we expect him to defend our rights when the pressure is even higher? This is how liberty dies, America. Not all at once, but piece by piece. First, you have an FBI director who won't affirm the Second Amendment. Next, you have agents enforcing unconstitutional restrictions. Then, before you know it, ordinary Americans are treated like criminals simply for exercising a God-given right. Have you seen this story before? And once the Second Amendment is compromised, the rest of the Constitution becomes nothing more than words on paper. Patriots, this is why we can never sit back and assume our rights are safe. They are only as strong as the courage of the men and women who are willing to defend them. And when government officials refuse, it falls on us. The FBI director's refusal to stand firmly on the Second Amendment isn't just bad optics. It's a flashing red warning sign. A government that does not respect the people's right to bear arms is a government that does not truly respect the Constitution. and history has shown us where that road leads. So here's my challenge to you. Contact your representatives and demand that any FBI director must affirm and defend the Bill of Rights, including the Second Amendment. And let me know how that conversation goes. Stay engaged, stay educated, and never back down from defending your rights. Because the Second Amendment isn't about hunting. The Second Amendment isn't about sport. The Second Amendment is about liberty, and liberty requires vigilance. As always, thank you for watching Guns and Gadgets, the premier source for Second Amendment news. If you found this video valuable, if it enraged you, if it made you have a different look into Kash Patel and how he says he's Second Amendment, or if you're now like me, wanting to dig into just how much in favor of an assault weapon ban and all the other bans is Kash Patel, then hit that like button and share this video with all of your friends. And subscribe to Guns and Gadgets so that you never miss another update on our Second Amendment. Together, we'll keep the fight for freedom alive, regardless of who our elected officials choose to have lead these agencies who could care less. Until next time, stay safe, stay vigilant, and carry a gun, because it's on us to protect and defend our liberty. Take care, y'all.